Now, there's advanced relief following.
Thanks so much for joining us for Storm Watch. Coming up shortly, I'll talk a little bit about threat of thunderstorms in areas of the upper Midwest. The top story today, we have a tropical storm. We have also a tropical depression, which may soon be a tropical storm. John Hope has the latest details on all the tropical weather with our tropical update.
That's exactly right, Rich, and thank you very much indeed. Yes, we have a depression out here in the Gulf of Mexico, and it is very likely, we believe, to become a tropical storm. On the latest advisory this afternoon at 1 o'clock Central Daylight Time, it was centered at 25.7, 94.0 west, and that's about 210 miles or so east of Brownsville, Texas, moving toward the west-northwest around 12, and the lowest pressure about 1,008 millibars. We haven't seen a lot of increase in that. A lot of increase in the wind and decrease in the pressure, but our satellite analysis suggests that it's getting a little bit better organized as time goes by. And because it is likely and is forecast to be a tropical storm, we do have tropical storm warnings in effect, and they extend all the way from High Island to Brownsville, Texas, which essentially takes in the whole Texas coast. So what we're hoping to be able to have here is a storm, barely a tropical storm. We hope that turns out to be the case, and that will bring in a lot of rain into areas that need it very, very badly. I know a lot of you folks in Texas are going to welcome the rain. Now, the center of circulation seems to be down here fairly far south. It's something a little bit farther north that we had some concern about. It might be a developing center, but the analysis we have so far suggests that the center is down here farther south, just about a beam of Corpus Christi or so. And we think that this will move inland by tomorrow morning, the way it looks. Maybe not, maybe around daybreak or so tomorrow morning, but you need to be ready for it by midnight or so. And the winds, well, they'll be tropical storm winds, and you certainly could see winds up to 40 or 50 miles an hour. We hope that that's going to do it. Now, you can see the radar offshore here and onshore now, some heavy rain coming ashore, lots of heavy precipitation out that way headed for the Texas coast. We'll keep you up to date. National Hurricane Center will have reconnaissance aircraft in there again this evening, and we'll be able to stay on top of it and let you know exactly how strong this is, which we think will be a storm then. Well, Bonnie is also of a rather considerable concern to us. Bonnie is a tropical storm already. The top wind 65 miles an hour, moving toward the west-northwest at 17, centered 120 miles north of San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we are very happy to see that it did pass by Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands well to the north. When it was out here over the northern leewards, it was just developing. So none of those folks fared too badly. They're getting some pretty good south winds, though, behind it now in the northern leeward islands. I've seen some winds blowing, say, south about 25 miles an hour. But because this is headed for Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas, we do have a tropical storm watch out for the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas. And then beyond that, we have a hurricane watch also including the southeast Bahamas and extending up into the central Bahamas. That's a hurricane watch. And we don't have a hurricane, but remember, we think this will be a hurricane. And we also would like to say that folks in the United States need to watch this pretty carefully. After the weekend, by Sunday or Monday, this could be approaching very, very closely, and we'll certainly be watching that carefully so we can let you know just exactly when and where we think that this might pose the greatest threat. Looking at the satellite picture, it looks well organized. See some deep reds here, very close to where the center is. That's where the highest tops are and the heaviest rain and so on. Also up here north of Puerto Rico, you can see some very well organized bands of showers there. Most of them, though, now to the north of Puerto Rico. Out over the Atlantic, we have another disturbance we think has a good chance eventually to be a tropical depression, perhaps in the next day or so, and we continue to watch pretty strong waves coming off Africa. We have Howard out here in the Pacific, 65 miles an hour. Good news is that that's moving away from the coast. Well, now let's let Rich briefly tell us what to expect here in the U.S. Rich?
All right, John. Briefly, as we look out across the country, course, we do have our front across the north. There's been some flooding rains recently into Nebraska, Iowa. Also, the potential for severe weather right up through midnight tonight. Upper Midwest. Much more about this and the complete forecast. That's coming up after we check your local weather conditions.
Tropical storm Bonnie is growing more powerful. Will it become a hurricane, and what impact could it have on the U.S.? Get up to speed. Watch Weather Center after your local forecast.
It's okay. She'll be back in 3,000 miles.
Don't touch me.
Cars. We know them. We love them.
Check your yellow pages for a Valvoline Instant Oil Change Center near you.
In clinical studies, a leading pain medicine significantly reduced minor arthritis pain, increasing range of motion and flexibility. You may be surprised. The medicine in these studies wasn't a pill. It was Bengay.
Thanks so much for joining us for Storm Watch. Coming up shortly, I'll talk a little bit about what's going on with thunderstorms tonight across the northern United States. Right now, our top stories in the tropics. Dr. Steve Lyons is going to tell us in our tropical update about 2 tropical storms.
Well, thanks, Rich, and you are right, 2 tropical storms, and the tropics have been heating up, and you need to heat up your preparation efforts if you haven't already done that. The latest is Tropical Storm Charley here as of 4 p.m. Winds 40 miles per hour, position 26.2 north, 95 west. That was about 190 miles southeast of Corpus Christi, Texas. Moving to the west-northwest at 12, which should make it somewhere on land within the next 12 to 18 hours or so, more or less. And we can see we do have tropical storm warnings up for virtually the entire Texas coast and all the way up to Cameron, Louisiana. So if you're in a small craft, you need to get to shore to be safe. Now let me show you something about this. Here's the latest visual satellite image. You can see a band has already interacted with the sea breeze here and produced a very large line of thunderstorms, and in that line some very gusty winds along the coast. That's going to push inland, so if you're outdoors you may want to pay attention to that. The other thing about tropical storms is they're big. The exact location of landfall is not the important point here. The overall weather in here is important. It's going to be rainy, squally weather. Most of the strong winds are on the north side of the circulation, and so you should be prepared for squally, windy, rainy weather the next 24 hours in Texas and extreme northern Louisiana. You can see on the radar here out of Houston, here's that line of thunderstorms that interact with the sea breeze pushing to the north, and we had some very gusty winds in excess of 50 miles per hour in the last hour or so. Now as we go out into the Atlantic, we have another potentially serious situation. Tropical Storm Bonnie out here, now at 20.6 north, 66.7 west. That's about 295 miles to the east-southeast of the Turks Islands here. Here's Puerto Rico. It's just past to the north of Puerto Rico. And we do have some watches and warnings up here. Warnings. Tropical storm warnings for the Turks and Caicos Islands and the southeastern Bahamas here. That's indicating that tropical storm force winds are likely within the next 24 hours. We also have some hurricane advisory information. We have some hurricane warnings up for the Turks and Caicos Islands and the southern Bahamas, and also a watch for hurricanes in the central Bahamas. And of course, the hurricane warning means hurricane force winds are likely within the next 24. Hurricane watch, hurricane force winds are possible within the next 36, and the system continues to move off to the west-northwest. Here's the last satellite view of this system here. Here's Puerto Rico down here. System is spinning up. We expect it to continue on a slow development trend and continue on that west-northwest track the next 24 to 36 hours. You can see on the infrared imagery, very large area of deep thunderstorms, and we've been monitoring the location of the center very nicely on the San Juan radar. You can see right up here is the center of the circulation here. The reason there's not much showing up on the radar here is because the radar is very, very high and it's overshooting the thunderstorm tops. But the center is up here, continues to move to the west-northwest, and this could become a hurricane in the next 12 to 24 hours. We have to be careful, and it could pose some threat to the U.S. coast. So you guys and gals on the Florida coast and on up the coast, you need to pay attention to the track of this system the next 24 hours. We have another system out here, not a tropical depression yet, but spinning pretty well. Farther to the south, it's still about 900 miles to the east of the Windward Islands. We're keeping an eye on that one as well. We also have some thunderstorms coming off the African coast, but ill-defined right now. And in the Pacific, we've got Hurricane Howard now, upgraded to hurricane, 11.9 north, 102.6 west. That's about 380 miles to the south-southwest of Acapulco. Winds are 75 miles per hour, and it's moving northwest at 9. So stay tuned to the latest on all these tropical storms and hurricanes. Now back to Rich with some local weather.
All right, thank you, Steve. As we look to the north, up across areas of the northern United States, chance of severe thunderstorms. That's associated with our front. Possibility of some heavier rains later tonight, too, but probably north of Nebraska and Iowa, where you've seen plenty the past few days. Coming up shortly, we'll talk much more about your complete forecast crossing.
Tropical Storm Charley bears down on the western Gulf Coast, while Tropical Storm Bonnie continues spinning in the Atlantic. An update on both next on Weather Center.
As autumn draws near, the mother readies her young for school. New outer coverings fortify them against the cooler weather. And the resourceful mother has packed Rice Krispies treat squares, knowing her brood will want them at school, when they return, and while they practice their day's lessons. Content with this wholesome goodie, the family settles in for a cozy year. Kellogg's Rice Krispies treat squares, regular or chocolate chip. How's your den stocked?
Snap, crackle, pop, wake up call to the world.
And you're our grand prize winner. Tell them what they've won, Jay.
Okay, Don, you're going to...
Good evening. Welcome to Storm Watch, which is sponsored by Home Depot. I'm Kim Perez. Well, we have somewhat of an active night as far as severe weather in the northern plains, and we'll take a look at that, plus some of the rain in Florida. But we have also two tropical storms that we are watching very closely, one in the Gulf of Mexico and also one in the Atlantic. And for more details on our tropical update, here's Steve Lyons.
Well, thank you, Kim. You're right. Two tropical storms. We also have a hurricane in the Pacific. Luckily, that's not affecting anything. Let's go to the Gulf system first because that's closest to home for most of you anyway, of our viewing audience. Here it is. Right now, we have tropical storm warnings up from Brownsville all the way up to Cameron, Louisiana, and those will stay up tonight as this system comes generally toward the shoreline. Latest information as of 7 p.m., 26.7 north, 95 west. That was about 170 miles east-southeast of Corpus Christi. You see it here in Corpus is just to the north and east of that. Winds are 40 miles per hour, and it's moving to the west-northwest at 12. If it continues on that track, that would put it on shore sometime tomorrow morning. Now let's take a look at it on satellite imagery. You say, oh my gosh, it's past Corpus Christi. What are you talking about, Steve? This thunderstorm activity is north of the circulation center. We got some very good observations from aircraft and from surface observations and buoys, and the center is down in here, generally moving toward the west-northwest, as I just mentioned. All the bad weather, so to speak, and all of the stronger winds are to the north of the system. So it's really the center and north is where all the bad weather is, and it's already we've had some water level rises along the coast, some as high as 3 feet above average near Lake Charles, Louisiana. And you can see right now they have a flash flood watch up for the Louisiana coast. That may be extended south into Texas later this evening and tomorrow. You can see here, here's the latest radar imagery.